In this video, we'll go over using Tween to create automated motions. Tween offers an easy way to create animations that oscillate or move from one point to another. This can be used for repeating motions or a motion that just plays once over a duration. We can add Tween to any object in Timeflow by right-clicking to show the context menu and selecting Add Animation Tween. This lists a set of components and properties that can be targeted, including materials. For a simple example, we'll choose Transform Local Position Y. We can see that a new channel has been created for the property with an oscillating curve displayed in the track area. Note that Tween can be added as many times as you wish to animate multiple properties, though each instance of Tween only has one channel displayed in the view. We can select the channel to view the Tween behavior in the inspector. The corresponding component is highlighted in the same color as the channel. First, at the top, we have the timing section, which determines intervals and start and stop points for the Tween. The duration mode has various options to specify the base timing interval, including the ability to use beats with musical timing, seconds, markers, or duration of another object, or using the full duration. For this example, we'll use the default beats mode to work with musical timing. We can then further specify the interval by choosing the note base and count. You'll notice that as these values are changed, that the curve drawn in the Timeflow view updates to reflect the new interval. Next, we have the start at and end at options, which may be useful if you want Tween to operate during a specific section of time. This offers many different ways of specifying a time, as well as the ability to use a trigger so that Tween could be initiated interactively by user input or scripting. However, these are advanced features covered more in the documentation, so for now we'll leave them at default settings. Next, we have the repeat settings to determine if the Tween repeats its motion and how many times. The Every mode can be used to space out Tween motions over specific intervals for intermittent motions with the option to limit the number of times it repeats. Or if you wish to create a single motion with no repeating, you can select None. The Hold mode determines the property value when Tween isn't animating, either before it starts or after it is stopped. The default behavior is to hold the starting and ending values for uninterrupted motion. However, in some cases, you may wish to set a specific default resting position, or use None to allow the object to remain wherever it is when Tween stops. The Tween name field may be set with any identifier you wish, and this can be helpful when working with multiple Tweens on the same object to help distinguish one from another. And finally, the random seed may be set to change the randomness of the Tween when using the randomization features, discussed more in a moment. Moving on to the next section, we have the start and end values defining the range of motion being applied. Note that the values displayed here may also show vector fields or colors depending on the property type selected. We can enter some values to test it and play Timeflow to view the results. And we can go back up and adjust the speed as desired. If we wanted to add some randomness to the motion, use the plus/minus fields next to the start and end values. This adds a value range to vary the oscillation within a certain amount. Once these values are modified, you'll notice that the curve drawn in the Timeflow view now shows some variation. Going back to the random seed, we can either enter a different value or click the Randomize button to assign a new random seed. Each seed has a specific determinate output, which is useful to create animations that repeat with the same randomization each time. We can further modify the Tween motion using the Interpolation settings. This includes the ability to select a number of different curve types. Or we can invert the curve and select whether or not it's a to and fro movement, meaning it ping-pongs back and forth in the same cycle. Alternatively, if to and fro is turned off, the motion only travels in one direction and jumps back to the start when repeating. One example where this is useful is when using Tween to create a constant rotation. To demonstrate, we can add Tween to a rotation property, such as the z-axis. Then assign the start value of 0 and ending at 360 degrees to create a full rotation. Then select linear mode and disable to and fro so that the motion has a fixed velocity in one direction. This has the effect of smoothly rotating an object continuously on any axis. You can then adjust the speed using the duration settings. The amount slider can be used to reduce the overall amount of animation applied. This blends down towards the start value or the default value if one is specified as the hold mode. Next, we have the phase slider, which shifts the cycle in time, acting like a time offset. This can be helpful to add some variation while keeping the overall timing. The in and out points can be adjusted to reduce the range of animation within the cycle. This has the effect of flattening the bottom and top of the graph and can be used to bias the animations toward the starting and ending value. The smoothness slider can then be used to shape the curve further, making it more square. This has the effect of speeding up the tween motion while keeping the same overall interval. Tween also has more advanced options to target multiple properties. We won't go over every setting here in detail, but basically you can add any number of children to be animated with the same tween and an optional offset. This can be useful for creating waves and trailing effects, and any number of other creative uses. And since this can target any property, it can work just as well for animating materials or anything else. See the example scene and documentation for more information on using multiple objects with Tween. Moving on to the next section in Tween, we have overrides. The override interpolation feature allows you or a script to take control over the interpolation of the tween. This can also be animated by other channels with Timeflow. Another option is to override the output value and to blend it with the tween motion using the slider. These parameters may also be animated in Timeflow and provide a way to transition into and out of tween from other animation channels, or controlled by a script. The last feature we'll discuss in this video is using Set Shader Global. This sets the value of a global shader property using the tween motion and is useful for driving animations and shaders. A similar option may be found in other channel types. This can be used with any type of shader, including those created with Shader Graph, to create custom effects controlled by Timeflow. That concludes this video on Tween. For more information, please refer to the links in the video description below. Next up, we'll go over working with motion paths.